those things.
So is it possible to say what sector of the economy gets hit the hardest by this?
I think it's a little hard right now, and that's some of the reporting I'm trying to do is to look at what's going on. I mean, this is a very wealthy part of the nation, and so a lot of people do have insurance. So because of that, that'll definitely bring money to the region from insured losses to get things repaired. You'll also clearly have the federal government coming in and spending money to try and help with the reconstruction as well. So the one area that I would really be, that I'm trying to look at a bit, is what's going to happen with oil and gasoline and with diesel. So many people out of power using generators. At what point do we get this, fuel back into the region and make sure that there's enough of it and that we're able to keep the power going wherever we can have it currently, in addition to getting the power back for those who don't have it.
How about the stock exchanges? Closed again today?
Closed again today, and the question will be, are they going to close again for another day? I mean, this is really unprecedented to see something like this. Yes, the stock exchanges were closed after 9/11, but the last time we really saw the stock exchanges closed because of weather was back in 1985 from a hurricane then, and it's very likely that could happen again. I don't want to make a prediction, but if the transit system's not working, if power is out in so many parts of the region, it makes it very difficult to keep operations going and go back to business as normal.
There was talk yesterday of, even while the floors would be closed, to keep electronic trading going, but then they decided against that. Why was that?
I don't know the specifics of that. Part of it may be because there's still a lot of people that need to actually work to keep the electronic system going, and while a lot of the computers that do the trading for the New York Stock Exchange or other exchanges are actually based in New Jersey or not necessarily on the floor of the stock exchange, you still need people to go to work. If you have a significant portion of the financial sector here in New York City not actually going to the office to execute trades, to do some of that work, that even if it's electronic, trading floors are closed at banks, it makes it very difficult to have really normal operations, makes it very lopsided, and that wouldn't be necessarily good for companies, wouldn't be good for the markets themselves. I mean, several companies have postponed their release of earnings data because of worries about the stock market.
Right. There's definitely going to be some pent-up demand once it all gets going again to buy or sell certain stocks.
Definitely.
And I heard another theory yesterday, which is that one of the reasons they didn't go forward with the electronic trading was that there would have been some ways for certain traders, to game the system and get ahead of the market. Now, I don't know what that would have been exactly, but
if there's a way to make money even in the face of disaster, I'm sure that people are looking for ways to do that.
All right, WNYC business editor Charlie Herman, thanks a lot.
You bet.
Folks, it was very eerie for me last night when we finished our special coverage to walk just the one block to the hotel that I was staying at right by the station here, to be in a Manhattan that was so dark that I needed to use a flashlight just to see the sidewalk ahead of me and beneath my feet, to go one block in Manhattan. And I know many of you in Lower Manhattan had similar experiences last night, and many of you around the region where power has gone out. But in Manhattan, which is always so bright, 24/7, 365, to be walking in a Manhattan where I literally could not see a foot in front of a foot, and whether I was going to fall into a little pothole or divot, so I used my flashlight. It was really, really an unusual and freaky scene. WNYC's Marianne McKeown was in the East Village last night when the power went out, and she's in the studio now. Hi, Marianne.
Good morning, Brian.
You're going to report on the area on the east side?
Right. I mean, even walking down the stairs in our building this morning, by the time we got to the ground floor, it was too dark to see the stairs very well. But, I mean, you forget how important light is.
We're on generator, but this is more information that people want about me, but we're on generator power here in the building at WNYC, and we don't, that gives us partial power. We don't have lights in our men's rooms. So, you can conjure up whatever you want, but there's no lights in the men's rooms.
All right, so last night on Avenue C, I don't know how much you recapped this morning, but the water was rushing down Avenue C to, I would say, higher than halfway up some cars. Cars floated around on Avenue C, and around my doorstep on East 7th, the water came right up to the top step of the stoop. Then around 10:30 it started to recede, and this morning the water is gone from the streets, but the basements and some ground floors all over the neighborhood around Avenue C and 7th, all up and down Avenue C especially, are flooded, each in a different way. I mean, on Avenue C, the Association market, the water pushed in the grocery store doors and flooded the grocery store. So now you can see, wet boxes of cookies and crackers all over the floor. And then it's attached to a rather large building that has an entrance both on 8th and 7th. And the basement of that building is filled with water to the ceiling. I went in and saw it with the super. There's a Mitchell-Lama building further north where they said the basement is just a parking lot, and they said it only got up to the hubcaps, but they were sweeping water out of their ground floor this morning. The president of the board there was very happy with his staff, everybody working together to get the water out. And then I saw another basement across the street on East 7th where the water had gone in, and there was a wall down the center of the basement with all the electrical equipment on the side, and it pushed that wall in. So this wall collapsed with all this electrical equipment on the side, and there is a lot of damage, and I think people are just walking around East Village trying to get a sense of what it is and what they're going to do.
Figuring out what they've woken up to this morning. Well, let's take a call from somebody who might be one of your neighbors. Joan in Alphabet City. You're on WNYC. Hi, Joan. You there?
I am here, and thank you so much for being on the air. The only thing we have working is a transistor radio.
It is old
They're
times.
the only thing we have.
Coming around
all
again.
Internet service is out, all electric is out, no cell phones. Nothing is working down here. The floodwaters actually, I'm on 6th Street between A and B, and the floodwaters actually came halfway up Avenue B on 6th Street. We're not designated as a Zone A, and the floodwaters came that far. I have one Con Edison generator system on the corner of 6th Street and Avenue A, and that blew, and then we heard the 14th Street one go with 2 big bangs last night. We could smell like something was burning in the air. There were several trees down. There were backyards between all of the buildings in Alphabet City, and a number of the trees in the backyards are down. Branches are down in all of the side streets. It's a mess.
And
It's a total mess.
Joan, are you smelling anything? Because one of the things I noticed was everywhere in the neighborhood smells like oil and gas. And
Yes.
somebody from the housing police precinct there said, well, all these cars were submerged. The water's mixing up with the gas and oil from whatever's underground and whatever equipment.
Absolutely. There was a terrible odor, but also when the generators flew, there really was a smell as if something was burning. It was a very acrid smell. And we do have some concern about the sewage and so forth, because there are some nasty smells around. And now that it's getting cooler as well, we're not going to have like heat, because most of the boilers operate with a kick-on that's electric.
There are people walking around the neighborhood saying, asking me, have I seen the FEMA or the Red Cross staging
nobody.
center? And there is no official walking around down there.
Nobody around, and there were a few, I don't know what type of repair vehicles on Avenue A last night, because we went out and walked last night to make sure that there really was water coming up our street.
Because you couldn't believe your own eyes.
Well, you're right. We had 2 flashlights because you really could not see. When New York goes dark, New York City goes dark, it is pitch dark. And you couldn't see in front of you. And certainly there were a lot of potholes. And this is an old neighborhood, Alphabet City. A lot of the buildings here still are very old. They're tenement-style buildings, and they tilt to begin with because they're built on landfill.
Joan, thank you very much for checking in from Alphabet City. She mentions the sewage and the smell. I guess this is a potential problem with respect to floodwaters anywhere. State environmental and health officials in Connecticut issued a warning today that floodwaters from Sandy in several towns may be contaminated because of raw sewage discharges from treatment plants and pumping stations. I know this was also an issue in Port Jefferson on the north shore of Long Island in Suffolk County last night. So this is something to be aware of too.
People in my building were saying already last night, don't drink the water, don't drink the water. There's been no official word, and I have to say that the water, there have been other floods around our neighborhood that have seemed more full of sewage than this one, but I can't say at this point much. Thank you, Brian.
Now, listeners, we're going to take a break in just a second. We are also expecting another update from Mayor Bloomberg momentarily, and we still have our reporters all around the area, and we'll continue to take your phone calls. Those of you who are listening to our special coverage last night got one little bit of respite with a little bit of treat that we're going to finish up this morning. And that is, we know that for many of you it's an emergency situation and you have to deal with your homes and you have to deal with your families. But for many of you, it's just boring now. You need to pass the time. You need to figure out what to do in lockdown mode, and you're hunkered down and things are okay in your home, but it's hour after hour, and now it might even be day after day for a couple of days of being relatively locked in. So we got our puzzle master Will Shorts to come on last night and give our WNYC and New Jersey Public Radio listeners a special Hurricane Sandy puzzle, a couple of puzzles really, to occupy your brain for a little while you're passing the time. And Will Shorts is going to come back on around 11:30 this morning and give you the answers to the puzzles. So what I'm going to do, so many of you listening right now who didn't hear him last night also have something with which to pass the time. We're going to replay Will Shorts, NPR's Puzzle Master, giving you his puzzle challenge last night. Is it self-explanatory? Can we just go to the clip? Okay, here is Will Shorts. If you're ready to do a puzzle, listen up.
Take the 6 letters of a storm, rearrange those 6 letters to spell something a general might cry going into battle.
Okay.
And your second puzzle is to take the letters of hurricane and rearrange them to spell another 9-letter word.
So there you have it. I'll repeat it so that it really sinks in, and see if you can do it, and you can call in at 11:30 and talk to Will Shorts if you can figure it out. I think one is easier than the other, but take the 6 letters of the words storm, rearrange those 6 letters to spell something a general might cry going into battle. Got that? And the other one is to take the letters of the word hurricane and rearrange them to spell another 9-letter word. What other word can you spell with the same letters that are in hurricane? Okay, you've got about 45 minutes. Go, and Will Shorts will be on around 11:30. Our special coverage continues. Brian Lehrer on WNYC.
WNYC receives support from Echo, publishers of The Song of Achilles, a reimagining of the life of Homer's epic hero, from childhood through love and war to his untimely death outside the walls of Troy. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller is available paperback wherever books are sold. Lincoln Center's White Light Festival, presenting the U.S. premiere of Fabulous Beast Dance Theater's Rion, an exploration of Irish music and contemporary dance, November 8th, 9th, and 10th. WhiteLightFestival.org.
WNYC 93.9 FM, AM 820, and WNYC.org.
Brian Lehrer on WNYC. In the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, we are told to expect Mayor Bloomberg any minute. We will see when he actually gets to take the podium. You know, some politicians are always late. President Obama is one of them. I'm sure it's strategy for whatever reason from the different press offices. President Obama is always like 45 minutes late, later than the scheduled time of his appearances. President Bush was always on time. You know, again, this is not a character judgment of President Obama. I'm sure it's strategy from the press office because they want CNN to talk it up for an extra 45 minutes, whatever it is. But Mayor Bloomberg tends to be on time, unless there are things going on where he's still receiving information and getting it together, because he likes to be on time, but he also likes to really have it down before he goes public. So we're waiting for Mayor Bloomberg's latest update. I'm sure many of you are curious if school is going to be back in tomorrow, for example, and we will hear what the mayor has to say about everything coming up as soon as he takes the podium. David First from New Jersey Public Radio is back with us to talk about Governor Christie's latest update which we carried part of live a little while ago. Hi, David.
Hi, and yeah, he was given another briefing and talked about the devastation at the New Jersey shore as being unthinkable. He says the first priority for officials is to try to rescue those still stranded by floodwaters on barrier islands and elsewhere. They won't know the full extent of the damage for another day or two. He wants to visit these barrier islands